And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
Welcome, friends, to the Quenta Accords. Today, I'll be revealing some of the lore of Tom Bombadil and evaluating his similarities to Epimêtheus, the Titan of Afterthought, in Greek mythology. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, when in doubt, follow your nose. From my last video, I talked about Tom Bombadil resembling many similarities to Eru Iluvatar. Firstly, this is shown through their etymologies, where the names Yárë and Quenya, Forn and Kuzdul, and Orald and Rohanese all find resemblances to the name Eru and Ouranos in Greek mythology, with Yárë meaning former days, Forn meaning eldest, and Orald meaning very, very old. They all find accords to Eru Iluvatar's eternal omnipresence upon our world and universe. As being the former days and eldest, one would have to have thoughts of the past, afterthoughts and hindsights, such as the domain held by Epimêtheus, the Titan of Afterthought in Greek mythology. His name is translated as Afterthought in Greek. His wife is Pandora the All-Gift, who had been entirely created by the gods themselves, the so-called first woman in Greek mythology, while Tom Bombadil has Goldberry the River Spirit as his spouse. With Goldberry being an alternate name for Melian the Maya, and Pandora being the Greek equivalent to Goldberry, we can make an etymological connection between the two. Melian means dear gift in Quenya, and Pandora is all gift in Greek. Not only that, but a fourth woman named Doris, an Okeanid nymph whose name means gift in Greek, also finds resemblance to Pandora. These four beautiful women can be represented as the music sung into creation by the Ainur, or the manifestation of the music of the Ainur, for it was the singing of creation itself. Their spirit is named Musica in Greek, which means music. Although the music was and is beautiful indeed, Eru Iluvatar and Old Tom is the one who thought of it from the first. For the very Valar themselves learned to make music for him as they originated from his thought. With that said, let's talk about this conception and trace it back to Epimêtheus, the Titan of Afterthought.
History became legend. Legend became myth.
From the Ainulindale of the Silmarillion, written by J.R.R. Tolkien and edited by Christopher Tolkien. There was Eru, the one, who in Arda is called Iluvatar, and he made first the Ainur, the holy ones, that were the offspring of his thought, and they were with him before aught else was made. So the Ainur were created from the thought of Iluvatar, and they were with him before anything else was made. They sang before him and contributed to the music that was orchestrated by him. Now, there are two Titan brothers who are the gods of thought in Greek mythology, Prometheus, the Titan of forethought, and Epimêtheus, the Titan of Afterthought. Forethought is thinking ahead, for example, knowing where we go when we die. That's a forethought. While an afterthought is a thought that is attributed to the past, for example, how did life come to be? So essentially future versus history, or fate versus prophecy. Prometheus, the Titan of crafty counsel, stole the fire of heaven and gave it to mankind. This fire is represented as Pyrrha, the daughter of Epimêtheus and Pandora. Pyrrha, meaning fiery in Greek, is one of the alternate names attributed to Persephone of Greek mythology, otherwise known as Myron the Admirable, who was Sauron before his fall from grace in Tolkien Legendarium. As a result of defying Zeus, Prometheus was bound to a stake on Mount Caucasus, where an eagle was set to feed upon his ever-regenerating heart. And so Prometheus' story mimics the story of Morgoth. He took Clymene, otherwise known as Asia, to wife, while Morgoth declared Earth as his own kingdom. His theft of fire can be interpreted as Sauron's fall from grace. Epimetheus didn't steal anything or get bound to a stake, nor was he remembered as notoriously as Prometheus. But he did represent the afterthought, and I believe it's a quality that's lost in us. To be able to be less worried about the future and being more invested in the natures that has bared humans from past to present. He is Tom Bombadil, for he is both Tomfoolery and eldest of the universe. Later on, I'll talk about Epimêtheus' creation of animals and how he's labeled the proverbial fool. For now, I want to go back to Old Tom and read from the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Chapter 7, in the house of Tom Bombadil. Then Tom Bombadil sat in the largest chair and called the hobbits to gather round him. "This is Goldberry's washing day," he said, "and her autumn cleaning. Too wet for hobbit folk. Let them rest while they are able. It's a good day for long tales, for questions and for answers, so Tom will start the talking." He then told them many remarkable stories, sometimes half as if speaking to himself, sometimes looking at them suddenly with a bright blue eye under his deep brows. Often his voice would turn to song, and he would get out of his chair and dance about. He told them tales of bees and flowers, the ways of trees, and the strange creatures of the forest, about the evil things and the good things, things friendly and things unfriendly, cruel things and kind things, and secrets hidden under brambles. As they listened, they began to understand the lives of the forest, apart from themselves, indeed to feel themselves as the strangers where all other things were at home. Moving constantly in and out of his talk was Old Man Willow, and Frodo learned now enough to content him. Indeed, more than enough, for it was not comfortable lore. Tom's words laid bare the hearts of trees and their thoughts, which were often dark and strange, and filled with the hatred of things that go free upon the earth, gnawing, biting, breaking, hacking, burning, destroyers and usurpers. It was not called the Old Forest without reason, for it was indeed ancient, a survivor of vast forgotten woods, and in it there lived yet, aging no quicker than the hills, the fathers of trees, remembering times when they were lords. The countless years had filled him with pride and rooted wisdom, and with malice. But none were more dangerous than the great willow. His heart was rotten, but his strength was green, and he was cunning and a master of winds, and his song and thought ran through the woods on both sides of the river. His great thirsty spirit drew power out of the earth, and spread like fine root threads in the ground, and invisible twig fingers in the air, till it had under its dominion nearly all the trees of the forest from the hedge to the downs. The tales told by Tom were so wondrous. Frodo described the following. Whether the morning and evening of one day, or of many days, had passed, Frodo could not tell. He did not feel either hungry or tired, only filled with wonder. The stars shone through the window, and the silence of the heavens seemed to be round him. Time flies when you're having fun. Skipping forward to the hobbits at dinner that was set by Tom and Goldberry. Indeed, so much did Tom know, and so cunning was his questioning, that Frodo found himself telling more about Bilbo and his own hopes and fears than he had told before even to Gandalf. Tom wagged his head up and down, and there was a glint in his eyes when he heard of the riders. "Show me the precious ring," he said, suddenly in the midst of the story, and Frodo, to his own astonishment, drew out the chain from his pocket, and unfastening the ring, handed it at once to Tom. It seemed to grow larger as it lay for a moment on his big brown-skinned hand. Then suddenly he put it to his eye and laughed. For a second the hobbits had a vision, both comical and alarming, of his bright blue eye gleaming through a circle of gold. Then Tom put the ring round the end of his little finger and held it up to the candlelight. For a moment the hobbits noticed nothing strange about this. Then they gasped. There was no sign of Tom disappearing. Tom laughed again, and then he spun the ring in the air, and it vanished with a flash. Frodo gave a cry, and Tom leaned forward and handed it back to him with a smile. Understanding Tom, or Eru's reluctance to envy the Ring of Power, to covet power, and ultimately refrain from choosing a path to rule Arda, sets him apart from all perceptions that he's the one true God. For the very word God can be attested to mean got, to have, to possess, to assume power, and there is only one fallen Vala who chose this path, as it is explained in the Silmarillion of the Ainulindale. When therefore earth was yet young and full of flame, Melkor coveted it, and he said to the other Valar, "This shall be my own kingdom, and I name it unto myself." For Melkor went by the name of Morgoth among the children of Iluvatar, and that Goth word you hear is an especially significant word that can be interpreted as God. The etymology of Morgoth is translated as dark enemy in Sindarin, so this could mean the elves opposed the possession of Arda by God in the First Age. The enemy of the Sindar? That answer can be quite subjective. However, the kingdom of God is a well-known teaching. Regardless, all you need to know is that our creator, Eru or Tom, doesn't covet dominion over us, and that's a happy thought, just as how Tom leaned forward towards Frodo and handed him back the ring with a smile. The story of Epimêtheus and the creation of animals can be found in the Protagoras, written by Plato himself. This is what he said. Once upon a time, there were gods only, and no mortal creatures. But when the time came that these also should be created, the gods fashioned them out of earth and fire, and various mixtures of both elements in the interior of the earth. And when they were about to bring them into the light of day, they ordered Prometheus and Epimêtheus to equip them, and to distribute to them severally their proper qualities. Epimêtheus said to Prometheus, "Let me distribute, and do you inspect." This was agreed, and Epimetheus made the distribution. There were some to whom he gave strength without swiftness, while he equipped the weaker with swiftness. Some he armed, and others he left unarmed, and devised for the latter some other means of preservation, making some large and having their size as a protection, and others small, whose nature was to fly in the air or burrow in the ground. This was to be their way of escape. Thus did he compensate them with the view of preventing any race from becoming extinct. And when he had provided against their destruction by one another, he contrived also a means of protecting them against the seasons of heaven, clothing them with close hair and thick skins sufficient to defend them against the winter cold and able to resist the summer heat, so that they might have a natural bed of their own when they wanted to rest. Also he furnished them with hooves and hair and hard and callous skins under their feet. Then he gave them varieties of food herb of the soil to some, to others fruit of trees, and to others roots. And to some again he gave other animals as food, and some he made to have few young ones, while those who were their prey were very prolific, and in this manner the race was preserved. Thus did Epimetheus, who, not being very wise, forgot that he had distributed among the brute animals all the qualities which he had to give. And when he came to man, who was still unprovided, he was terribly perplexed. Now while he was in this perplexity, Prometheus came to inspect the distribution, and he found that the other animals were suitably furnished, but that man alone was naked and shoeless, and had neither bed nor arms of defense. The appointed hour was approaching when man in his turn was to go forth in the light of day, and Prometheus, not knowing how he could devise his salvation, stole the mechanical arts of Hephaestus and Athene, and fire with them. They could neither have been acquired nor used without fire, and gave them to man. Thus man had the wisdom necessary to the support of life, but political wisdom he had not, for that was in the keeping of Zeus, and the power of Prometheus did not extend to entering the citadel of heaven, where Zeus dwelt, who moreover had terrible sentinels. But he did enter by stealth into the common workshop of Athene and Hephaestus, in which they used to practice their favorite arts, and carried off Hephaestus' art of working by fire, and also the art of Athene, and gave them to man. And in this way, man was supplied with the means of life. But Prometheus is said to have been afterwards prosecuted for theft, owing to the blunder of Epimetheus. In some other versions of this myth, Prometheus is also credited with the creation of humanity from clay, where instead of Epimetheus creating both animals and humans, Prometheus was tasked with humans, while Epimetheus had animals. Discern it however you like, whether Prometheus or God created humans, or it was indeed Epimetheus or Eru. I'm not here to tell you which is which. I'd just like to raise awareness on this significant piece of literature, and so now you can see how there's controversy as to who is the true creator or distributor of everything. I guess it comes down to, did humans evolve from animals, or were they created separate from them? Science versus religion, the age-old enemies of our time. Although I'd advise you to follow your conscience, and you can't spell conscience without spelling science. That said, the notes used in the Song of the Kingdom of Morgoth are taken from the original Song of the Valar, as explained in Aiolus-Aion, like hope and faith, fundamental qualities that are a gift for everyone. And so that's the quantum of the lore of Tom Bombadil as Eru Iluvatar and Epimetheus as Ouranios-Aion of Greek mythology. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to reject the all-encompassing power of the One Ring, and leave a like and subscribe.
Cast it into the fire! Destroy it!